the technology. While in the energy sector, we continue to primarily burn coal for our electrical generation. Or what we consider new is solar or wind or biofuels, all these things that have been utilized for centuries to generate electricity, but suddenly we're trying to say, oh, these are new.
Most people
They're really
can't afford
not
it.
new.
Most
They're repackaged. There's incremental changes that are being made in those technologies. These really disruptive technologies that many of these inventors have come up with, when they have shown a great deal of promise to actually being a viable replacement for oil, well, that's when the doors seem to open up and a heavy foot gets stepped on a lot of the necks of these folks. And you know what? Understanding the human condition and the way business operates and the way people in general have a fear response to anything that seems threatening to their interests, it's very understandable that this has happened. Now, I'm not one who is looking for there to be some type of recrimination against those who have been oppressors in this field, but I definitely am one who wants to make the appeal to everybody, including those who have been some of the lions at the gate to the release of these, and invite everyone to come together and say, okay, look, we don't have much more time to screw around. If you look around our planet right now, there's all different manners of destruction that's happening.
Sure.
And it's not in the vested interest of civilization at large. So we have to come together wisely and start to turn over all the stones for how to have clean energy technology, not just some of these winners that the government has picked because of having received some type of compensation, whether for campaign contributions or revolving door between Department of Energy and industry. But that's just got to go away as far as the way it works.
That's an issue I did want to go into, solar and wind. We see the government's pushing this form of so-called renewable energy. However, there are limitations to it and environmental risks. I've heard some things about wind energy and its effect on birds and navigation. So what can we talk about in terms of limitations within wind energy, then we'll move on to solar?
Well, first I would say is that anything that moves us in the direction of clean energy, we support. New Energy Movement as an organization supports that, because it is helping to wake up people and realize that we have to get off of the polluting fossil fuels.
Great transitional energy.
Now, at the same time, many of the technologies that are the clean and green technologies right now, or that are talked about as such, they do have significant drawbacks. You mentioned a couple of them for wind. The other thing is the very large footprint that a wind turbine takes, and for those whose vision of clean and green is that it tends to blend into the environment, a wind turbine is anything but that. I mean, it's actually, many consider it a blight on the landscape. You know, if you go down to the end of the eastern end of the Columbia Gorge, which I think is one of our most fabulous scenic treasures, and then all of a sudden you start to see giant wind turbines everywhere. You know, many consider wind turbines all over the landscape really is not a harmonious scene of beauty.
How you look at it.
In my estimation, I don't think it's the most elegant form of clean power.
Right.
So there's that aspect. So the aesthetic aspect, certainly the impact on bird life, on flying mammals, bats.
Right.
Are there statistics on that? How many? I mean, do we have do we have piles of bats sitting down at the bottom of these things?
Well, I think you'd need to talk to someone like the Audubon Society.
That would be the question people would ask. That would be the question people would ask. So we're talking about did one bird die, and then suddenly we're going to change all of our rules? For me that may be useful, but for a lot of people, they think about wildlife. Hey, bird, fly higher. But
well, when you have them and when you have things like this that are large structures that have a huge footprint of where the turbine is going, and the tips of the turbine are running. They might be running 80 miles an hour or more in any significant any significant type of wind because you have the rotation at the hub may not be that great, but the tip speed is very fast. So a raptor that's flying by there, eagles, hawks, osprey.
I'm for
like
it.
this.
I'm for getting rid of anything that impedes on the normal flow of nature, but not making a federal issue out of we just got one dead bird.
No, I agree with you, John.
Okay.
I think there's some other things here too, and I am not a researcher on the wind scene, but I catch, my ears are open to what goes on, and I'm always interested in seeing the data, and being, let's be scientific and reasonable about what's going on and what decisions get made. But some of the other things that come out are what are some of the harmonics that are generated by the wind turbines, and are those harmonics healthy for the local biosphere, including the humans that are within range of impact of those type of frequencies.
And hopefully in time where people will start looking at this, because people now know about the dams and how that is damaging to salmon and the spawning of new life, fish, our food supply, and now we're starting to see the errors of our ways as a result of being dependent on this dam system. So interesting to look at the thing with wind, but solar. I'm very optimistic about the future of solar, but I'm also very cautious about for example, the rise of China and that impact on the Pacific Northwest with the monopoly on these new energy companies, because what I foresee coming is many Chinese